Delighted to say Gary Neville joins us live right now. Gary, thank you so much for joining us. So it is Scotland here at Wembley Friday. Oh, that cross from the right, Shearer with the header. Oh, such memories of Euro 96. I was lucky enough to be in that stadium, as were you, by the way, on that day. Was that the highlight of your football career?
And not the highlight of my football career, I don't think, but certainly a high for England. Those two games against Scotland and Holland in the group phase of Euro 96, probably the greatest atmospheres that I've ever seen at Wembley. Absolutely incredible. Stuart Pearce, I suppose, told me before the tournament and made me aware that I was going to witness something special if we did well in this tournament. And I have to say that, you know, that Scotland game, we rode our luck a little bit. Scotland missed a penalty. And then we went on and produced probably one of England's greatest ever performances in a tournament at Wembley against Holland. So, you know, it was a great game. It won't be quite the same on Friday without the fans in the stadium, but it'll still be a special occasion and one that the players should really look forward to.
Yeah, the Dutch game. When I came out of the stadium, my eyes were red. I hadn't been crying. I'd just been rubbing them. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was amazing. Now, you spoke about Gareth Southgate's game management after the game on Sunday. How crucial will that be in this one here, given the occasion? Is it easy for players perhaps to get too carried away because of who the opposition is?
I don't think the players will. I don't think Gareth will. You see Gareth's manner now over many years as the England manager. He tends not to get too high when England win a game. He certainly doesn't get too low when they lose a game. He's seen a lot of international football. He's seen a lot of tournament football and understands what can happen. I think that his game plan for this game, for this match on Friday, will have been set before even the game against Croatia. I don't think that will change. I think he's really methodical, Gareth, and knows how he's going to tackle each game. And I think he'll have his plan in place and that'll be set. I think it's a little bit more interesting for Steve Clarke in terms of how he reacts to the defeat that he's had in the first game. But the Scottish fans, I'm sure, are saying, we have to go and beat England, we have to go and beat England. And that might mean that there is a sort of emotional reaction, a feeling that they need to be more attacking, they need to go and be a little more proactive. But I think that would suit England. I think England would want Scotland to come at them so they could then play their football a little bit more. So I think it's important for both managers to try and remove emotions from this match. Obviously, England-Scotland, the rivalry, the importance of the match in terms of the tournament, and just stick to the game plans. And I'm sure that Gareth Southgate will. It's whether Steve Clarke just gets a little bit sort of, not unnerved, but certainly reacts to the fact that they had a disappointing first result against the Czech Republic.
Yeah. As for England, we saw that double pivot in midfield, didn't we? Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips against Croatia. Phillips in particular, how good was he? Do you see England sticking with that against Scotland? And what does that mean for Jordan Henderson going forward?
I think that what we saw against Croatia was probably Gareth Southgate's reaction to what probably all of us have been thinking pre-tournament, that England's weakness is defence and that they need to keep clean sheets if they're going to win a tournament. And that double pivot, as you call it, or the two midfield players sort of, you know, patrolling in front of the back four, that isn't going to change. We can absolutely be sure of that. I suppose the interesting question is to whether Kieran Trippier will remain at left back. There is no doubt that Shaw and Chilwell will add further, will be better going forward attacking wise. But it's whether Gareth Southgate feels that Kieran Trippier gives the edge to the defence in terms of that clean sheet, which is so important. You know, when you get to a tournament, you know, you can talk about scoring goals all you like, but you know you're going to come up against Portugal, you're going to come up against Germany, France, Spain at some point in this tournament, and you're going to have to defend well. And if Gareth Southgate set his stall out that the defence needs to be compact, it needs to be tight, we need to have a fullback on the left that doesn't go forward as much, then we could see Trippier stay in. My feeling was after the Croatia game was that Shaw would come in or Chilwell on Friday against Scotland, but that midfield won't change. And for Jordan Henderson, he's not at the same level at this moment in time, fitness-wise and games-wise, as Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice. I said last night that I felt that Harry Kane was undroppable in this England team. I'd put probably Declan Rice. It seems quite a strange statement to make, pretty much up there as well at this moment in time. He's going to play every single game, Declan Rice. And I think Calvin Phillips now, with the way he played in the first game, is going to play alongside him. I don't see Gareth Southgate changing that. They've got a good partnership. They've got good rotation in midfield. They pass well together. They play well together, and they're certainly further ahead in their fitness than Jordan is at this moment in time.
Yeah, upon 90 minutes, such things can change, can't it? What about Tyrone Mings as well? Because you talked about the need for solidity at the back and defence being the weakness, but how much was his performance at the weekend a dominating one? And okay, when Harry Maguire is fully fit, what happens there?
I think Tyrone Mings did really well. I think it was a really important match for him, obviously. Stones and Mings, if you looked at that as a partnership pre-tournament, you would have concerns, particularly coming up against the better teams. And I know that people have dismissed Croatia after the first game, but not many were dismissing them before the game. So I still say that was a really good win for England against a good team. And Tyrone Mings played really well. I think that the reason that Trippier played at left-back was because of his experience, his tournament experience and know-how, which meant that ultimately Tyrone Mings did have some experience either side of him with Stones and Trippier. I think that Maguire, if he can get back to a level in between matches, he will come back in. But then I think that it's interesting. I think if he's going to come back in, I think he has to come back in certainly against Scotland. But if it's not against Scotland, it has to be against the Czech Republic in the last game. You couldn't make Harry Maguire's first game a knockout game. So Harry Maguire must surface in this next two matches, or else I fear that you won't see him in the tournament, and it will be Mings and Stones that will continue.
Let's take you back to the mindset then in Euro 96. If anything, after the opening games and England's draw there and the Scots getting a draw, it was almost more pressure on you, not only because it was the home fans, but also because of those results. And you had the Dutch to come, so there was the thinking that we need to win this one. Was there chat between both sets of players as the game developed? Will you expect that to go on during the match on Friday, each trying to get a mental edge as well as a tactical edge?
I don't think players nowadays talk as much to each other on the pitch and try and influence each other as much. It certainly did happen in sort of my day. It was quite regular. In fact, to be fair, it was one of the tactics that I would personally use to be an irritant to opposition players if I felt I could get to them and vice versa. You've got to remember, going into that Euro 96 tournament, there was huge pressure on the England team and not a lot of love for that England team either. We'd not had a great run in terms of results up to that tournament. Alan Shearer hadn't scored a goal. We'd had the dentist chair and smashing up of a plane coming back from Hong Kong and China. So there was a lot of pressure on that team. And also, drawing the first game against Switzerland at home was seen as a really bad result, which obviously wasn't a great result. So that Scotland game was a massive release. I don't think the players, to be fair, will be engaged in what would be, any sort of what would be, banter between each other in the game. I just think that there isn't that sort of time to think about it. It's so important on Friday. You've got to be in complete control and be so sure if you're going to be a team that's going to start doing that. And I'm not sure either England or Scotland have got it in them to start what would be trying to sort of play mind games with each other, either in press conferences or actually during a match. I just don't think it's the way in which they're built. So that won't go on, but they will be competitive. Scotland will be awkward for England on Friday. I've never played in a game against a home nation team where it's not been awkward and it's not been difficult, because they're really well organised. It's the biggest game for Scotland, and that's not being disrespectful, but for a Scottish player coming to Wembley, it's the biggest match that they can possibly play. And for England, it is more of a normal match. It's a match that ultimately England play many matches at Wembley. So for them, I suppose in some ways the pressure is more on England Friday than it was against Croatia. But I do think England will win. They've got better quality and they're in better form.
Yeah, I was just reflecting on what you were saying. Amazing to think people were calling for Alan Shearer to be dropped, Gaza never to play for England again after what went on. There you go. There's a lot of words being eaten after that one, wasn't there? Tactically here, right? Let's transpose ourselves to the Monday Night Football Stadium studio. We're about to kick off. Where will this game be won and lost?
I think for Scotland, the way in which they will win it, they have to be defensively tight. I think they're going to have to play a little bit more, a little deeper. I don't think the idea that Scotland, this idea, let's go two up front, let's go for them, let's put the ball in the box. I've very rarely seen teams at Wembley being able to maintain a physical performance for 90 minutes, in fact, even for 45 minutes. We saw England against Croatia. After about 25, 30 minutes, they had to sit back. You know, it's very demanding. It's a very demanding stadium to play in. I think the idea that Scotland would be able to bombard England with set pieces is something that I don't think will come to fruition. I think they just have to make sure that Scotland defend well. That's the main thing. They can't concede goals like they did against the Czech Republic. They have to make sure they keep a clean sheet and then hope for that one moment in the match. I do think they'll be playing, you know, they've got some good players, but I do think they'll be playing for that type of victory. In terms of England, I think they just have to go and get that first goal and then make Scotland come at them, and then they can go and pick them off. We saw what happened to Portugal with Hungary. As soon as they got that first goal, they went and scored another 2 straight after. And that's what good teams do when you're playing against a resilient and sort of hard to beat team. I think that's what Scotland will be on Friday. They'll be hard to beat. But once England score that first goal, if they were to score that first goal, the game becomes a little bit more simple.